Hi, I am the artist Richard Lyle, and today's video will be about making your own frames. I have been making my own frames for many years. I think all artwork should be in frames, and you should have a frame you feel, as the artist, adds to the painting. Also, if you've been in this business as long as I have, you already know that people want to buy your painting in a $600 frame for $200. So I start to make my own frames. Most people like the frames, and some people even purchase frames from me. Here is what you'll need to start to make your own frames: a chop saw, hardwood boards and molding, sandpaper, paint, plastic wood, a frame clamp, glue, small straps of hardboard, some screws and hangers and wire. In the end, the cost is about 30 to 40 cents per inch. So a nice looking 16 by 20 frame will cost about $25. You buy the hardwood planks and molding by 8 to 10 feet lengths. So what you do not need for the first frame will be used on your next frame. And I find it fun making my own frames. I feel it's part of the artist process. So let's start. Here you see me with the chop saw, getting ready to cut a 45 off the end of the plank. You have to cut a 45 angle off the edge of the plank there. And that little piece is a strap. Now I have a nice 45 at that end. I check it, make sure the saw was set right. I do have a 45 edge. Then I'll turn the board on end. You have to go by the inside edge of your painting. You have to measure the painting and find out what length each plank has to be. This is you're making the base for your whole frame. After I measure it out, I cut a 45 off the other end. I turn the board off. When it's a flat board symmetrical, you just have to flip the board and you cut the two 45s so their small end is at one end, the edge near the painting. So there's my board. Then I check the dimension of it, make sure it's the length I want. From the inside edge to the inside edge has to be the size of the painting plus 1/8 of an inch. Once I verify that and make sure it's exactly right, I use that plank to cut my other plank, because both sides are symmetrical. You want them exactly the same so your picture comes out square. So you make sure that edge is flush on that edge, and then you use that board you cut as a guide for your other side of the frame. Now when you mark it, do not run the pencil along that 45 edge. Make a line on the board to the edge of the plank and then use your square to mark the line. And then measure it and make sure you didn't make a mistake. Then I take the saw and I touch the blade without it turning to the board, and I want it to be just on the outside edge of the line. So the plank will be exactly the right length. You don't want cut on the line, you want it to be just on the other side of the line. There it is. Then I match the two boards, turn them end to end, and you can see both ends are the same. Then I checked to see how much wood I had left over. I had enough for the one short end. So now you can see I have all four pieces for the base cut. And I'll number them. I'll number them 1 through 4 so I can keep track of them, so I always have the same piece in the right place. The boards vary a little in thickness, but it's the inside edge that's important. There you can see the numbers 2 and 3 on the planks. I cut it the same process. Here you see me cutting the molding. Now the molding's different. You get a waste on each piece. You have to have the inside edge going the same direction because the molding's not symmetrical. So you do get some waste with the molding. Then you check the molding to the plank and make sure it's right. Here you can see I use one of the little strap pieces of wood to line up the edge of the molding with the edge of the plank for the base, to make sure that they're perfectly aligned so I can measure the other side. Here's a good example how I mark the edge of the board. I don't use the board as the 45. I mark it on the very edge so it's lined up perfect, and then use my square. Well, here I am, cut the 45. I do it the same way. I touch the saw blade just on the other side of the line and cut. There's the cut edge, nice and clean cut edge. There's the molding sitting on the board, lined up on the edge. There's both moldings, the inside molding and the outside molding on one plank. Notice I put lines on the boards so I can tell where to paint it. Those lines, you don't want paint under the molding. The molding needs to be glued to wood. So here's another view of the two moldings on the plank. Here's everything, all the moldings cut and numbered and put together, grouped. And there's also 4 triangles of masonite there, which I'll show you how to use to put the frames together. We're ready to start putting this frame together. I use a biscuit gun. You don't have to use a biscuit gun. I'll go over both ways. On this frame, I'm using both ways, biscuit and the 4 pieces of masonite. Now I put a line in between the 2 boards where they join, in the middle where the biscuit's gonna go. I put a line across the 2. You use that line for your mark for your biscuit so it cuts into both sides. I also numbered the 2 boards so I know which to go together. Here you can see the number and the arrow where it goes to. So this board here on the left attaches to 3. You can see the line marks up with the marking on the biscuit gun. Here is the triangle with masonite. You put that on there and put 4 screws down. The glue is in between. You make sure the glue is evenly on both joints. Don't put it on just one, put it on both, glue it together, and then you put the glue under that piece of masonite and you screw it down while it's clamped in there. And then let it set for a few hours for that joint. You want to make 2 L's, 1 end piece and 1 long piece, and you joint them together and let them set. Then when you're joining the 2 L's together, 2 L shapes, the 2 halves of the frame, you use bar clamps to pull it together real tight, and you put the masonite on there and the biscuit inside and the glue, same process. Pull down the screws, let it set, then do the opposite joint. That's pretty well it. Now here's the back corner painted. I spray painted this frame. Most of the time I spray paint it, but actually the other side is easier to do with a brush. Otherwise you have to tape it with masking tape and then spray it so you don't have glue underneath the molding. If you do it with a brush, you can just paint it. Here you can see the molding just laying on the frame. You can see the one edge is not, there's no paint on it, it's taped. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want the glue to be between wood and wood when you glue down the piece of molding. Here you see the frame. You see one of the screws that I used to hold down the outside part of the frame, the molding. After I put the molding, glue it down, I put some screws in it to hold that outside edge because it gets some beating, so it won't pop off. There it is, all screwed down and glued. Just the outside edge. The inside molding is not done yet. Here's the whole frame done with the picture in it. I brought it outside so I could see it under more than one light to make sure I don't have any holidays and that there's no problems with it, that a joint doesn't match or anything. As you can see, it's a pretty nice frame. Here's the wire I use. With large frames like this, I use these type of wire clips to fold down. They're much stronger than eyelets. You would have to put too large of an eyelet in for this size frame. So these work a lot better. And then I twist the wire on. I use solid wire and I braid it. Here's the picture, all done, hanging on the easel. Looks pretty good. I'm pleased with it. Nice, clean look. I think people will be happy with it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you give a try of making your own frames. You can save a lot of money.